I don't know if you know this about me, but I was a naval aviator. And so I was doing that 7 years, and I knew I wanted to get into business. And I didn't want to stay in the Navy for 20 years, even though I'd been in 8 years at the time. So some pilots ahead of me had gone into business school and got into the Stanford Business School, and they encouraged me to apply to business school. So I applied to the Haas School of Business because I went to Cal as an undergrad, and I love Berkeley. And so I thought I was going to be a shoo-in. I had great grades as an undergrad, engineering, great distinguished career in the military. And essentially the way it works in the military when you're an officer is you have to resign your commission, and it has to be approved. Well, I had to resign that commission before I knew if I was going to get into business school or not. So it's quite risky.
Right.
Since I didn't have any other job prospects, it wasn't like I could go back in and keep flying helicopters. And so then I applied and put my whole application in. And then after I was approved for my resignation, which meant I only had a few months left in the Navy, I got a big fat no from the Haas School of Business. But I think the lessons I got out of it was you got to have a plan B and a plan C. And especially if you're starting a business where you're doing something where you could potentially run out of money or have the business crash, you can't get yourself in where you don't have plan B, C, and D lined up and keep working it. I just realized it's a sunk cost. Fresno's gone. I can't do anything more about it. What can we do to keep everyone else happy? And once I got focused on the positive side and that there was still opportunity to put effort in to save the enterprise, then I just doubled down my efforts in that arena. And once I got a couple people saying, yes, we're going to stay on, don't worry, then it started building its own momentum. And once I started getting that, then I started realizing the doomsday scenario. A lot of times psychologically, you can overanalyze the magnitude of a crushing blow and just rationalize it to be the end of the world. And it could be close to the end of the world, but there might be a sliver of hope coming in there. And you got to push the dark side away and go to that sliver of hope and focus on it. Hopefully it opens up to a bigger room of light where you can start operating again and building stuff back. You can't take too long to have a pity party. You got to just move on and to just be deadly honest about where you're at. You just have to be brutally honest. Okay, we are at ground zero, nowhere to go but up. How do we start climbing out? And then you start taking it one little step at a time. And if you're fortunate, and we were fortunate, you end up getting through it. And then once you start building success, then it just becomes a lesson learned. I always, when I do a lot of mentoring with people, I say, you've got to be your number one best advocate. No one else will be. The number one thing I think is really important that you have to remember is that just keep showing up every day with a positive attitude. Literally, it sounds so simplistic and it can be a little naive, but it's that attitude that every day you're chipping away at the project. You're just getting one step higher on the mountain, even though it's hard. Is that over time, if you're not one of these people looking to just flip something and get rich in a year or two, because if you're doing that, don't even start a company. That it won't work. But if you believe in what you're doing and you see you're making progress and you know you're heading in the right direction, then you can do it. If you're in a situation now where you're not totally 100% happy with what you're doing, you've always had an idea about what you'd like to be doing with your life or where you'd like to be working, I tell people, my God, you need to do it right away. Do the plan you need to do, set aside some money, change your lifestyle. You will never, ever, ever regret taking a chance on yourself. The lessons you'll learn and the freedom you'll feel about having done that, you don't want to look back and say, oh my God, why didn't I just do that when I had a chance? It's so flabbergasting because that's the difference. Many people can talk about it. Doing it is so much better. Even when you fail, you've learned a lot of stuff and you can recover. Most people think it's going to be in the world, but it's not. It usually leads to other opportunities you can't even imagine. We have a very basic rule around here, no a-holes as our partners, since we're a LLC. And so we just said, look, even though the money is tempting, I've learned a long time ago, it's not about the money, it's the people behind the money. And it's much more important to get really good people who believe in your company and believe in you, even if the valuation's worse. Because when things go wrong, and trust me, they always go wrong, those are the people who will stand behind you in the tough times. Everyone will be there when it's going well and you're an IPO or getting bought out for $300 million. Right. But who's going to be there when you're out of cash, you're personally writing checks, and you need to put together a quick note to carry things along? And at the end of the day, if you start making sacrifices on whatever your key principle in your company is, it's a slippery slope to hell. Then it's just all about money. And if you're really in it about making money, you will find, especially in today's marketplace, you're not going to survive. You've got to be authentic. You've got to have a product that has a story about why it's there and why it's a benefit for consumers, and you can't deviate from that no matter what. A lot of times in the moment, you're really, really worried about how the future is going to be, what outcomes are going to happen, or sometimes things don't go your way and you think it's the end of the world. But sometimes things happen for a reason. It's not clear at that time. And getting a rejection in certain places may save you heartache down the road, or not getting the exact deal you wanted with the right people, which you thought at the time were the right people, turns out to be a blessing in disguise. So I would just tell people, younger Scott, just relax a little bit. Let things play out. Don't get so stressed out about every little decision, because the decision's made, the outcomes happen, and the real benefit or struggle will be revealed in time. And a lot of times, your imagination is your worst enemy.